Hello and welcome to Comedy in a Nutshell, a podcast in which I, your host, Mark Ducano, interview people in and around the comedy circuit. It's a disparate and needy search for meaning in the soulless world of capitalist exploitation, or, just a bit of fun. My guest this episode founded Tickled Pink All-Star Female Comedy Night in Leicester in 2018 to showcase women in comedy. She's continued to do so, live and online, and this year held a show in London, with new dates booked to follow. It's host and comedy promoter, Judith Critchley.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for coming on the show with me.
You're most welcome.
So tell me about how Tickled Pink All-Star Female Comedy Night got started, because you launched in 2018 with basically no experience of launching a comedy night at all, is that right?
Exactly, yes. So basically, I did a stand-up comedy course. In Leicester, we've got a really good setup called Bright Sparks in Mental Health. So they put on lots of different creative sort of events, really, regularly for people with long-term mental health conditions to go along. And I live with bipolar disorder. So I went along to do a stand-up course, and I did that, and I performed at the end in the Exchange Bar in Leicester for about 5 minutes. And so I did some stand-up for probably about a year. And then I thought, because, I found because of my own circumstances, I'm a single mum, and, to be a comedian, to really hone your art, you've got to be really committed and spend the time, as I can see from the comedians I have on my nights. And so I just thought, well, I'll put on an event, and I had put on other fundraising events before, but I thought, well, I just contacted the Firebug, arranged a night, somehow put together a lineup, put a shout out on social media, which is something it is good for, and then had a lineup and advertised it, and people came. So that's how it started.
So how was that initial response when you sort of reach out to people and say, "Hi, I'm new to this. Do you want to come and take a chance?" What kind of response did you get from the people you were approaching?
Yeah, I got a really good response. So it was I would say, a pretty good sized audience. People were receptive. They enjoyed it. And so that was sort of what I needed to carry on. But it's been a massive learning curve, and it's just me running the night, and I'm very small compared to other comedy nights, but it just takes a long time to grow. And I think it's my passion project, really. I don't make any money out of it, but it's something that I really enjoy doing and I get a lot out of. So
the comedy night that you set up specifically highlights women in comedy. So what brought that to the fore in your mind? What is it that you saw or didn't see that you thought, this is something that I'm going to step up and get involved in?
So really it was a result of me doing stand-up myself, that I saw the lack of diversity on lineups, which is still the case today in part. But I was disappointed by that, and I just thought, I want to create a platform where women fill all the spots, and not just an add-on. So that was my main sort of goal, really, and that's what I've carried on doing.
Do you think that you get a better response with an all-female or an all sort of, let's say, non-straight white male lineup than you do with like a mixed bill? Is it all? Do you feel like the response is more focused on the comedy itself than the diversity and the bill?
I think for me, it's showing that there are, comedians out there who are women, who bring diversity. And because I've spoke to comedian promoters before, who said they can't find, women comedians. They say that women aren't funny. They, will just use the same women. And so I think it's just showing that, women are funny, that this is a different kind of comedy night. And that you can still have a really good time, and
Yeah.
and you'll get different perspectives on life, as you do when you bring anybody onto the stage who has got different experiences and different life experiences.
So do you feel, I mean, you said that you got really good response from the audience. Do you feel like feedback broadly across the spectrum, like on media, etc., has been supportive or critical?
I would say supportive. It's been mainly, I think, like I've stopped sort of, if I see a night that I don't feel, if it's just all men on a lineup, I just now concentrate on doing what I'm doing. And I get from the comedians themselves, like when I did the 21 Soho gig, there were comedians there that I've known for the whole 4 years, and had them on my night, and they were just so grateful to me. They just said thank you so much for providing the opportunities, because it's not easy getting on a lineup. You don't just get on a lineup, do you? You have to promote yourself. Someone has to give you a chance if you've got no experience. So I think that that I've had enough good feedback from the audience and from comedians to carry on.
Yeah. So you mentioned 21 Soho there. So that was a gig earlier this year. That is your first London outing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So that was the 30th of April this year.
Yes.
Because I thought it would just be good to spread my wings and did a bit of networking, and then was put in touch with 21 Soho, and and it came off, and it was just fantastic. You were there, and it was a really, really good comedy night, and it felt, and the audience were great. They were really engaged, so it was brilliant.
Yeah, it's a great night. Did that foray into the big city from Leicester, slightly smaller city, did it feel like a daunting challenge? Because firstly you had to break onto the stage in Leicester, and now you're having to break onto a stage in London. Was that the same challenge? Was it different? How did that feel?
It definitely felt different. Just because, there was a buzz that London, being a capital city, there's so much going on in London and culturally, which there is in Leicester, but it's just on a different scale in London. And but I think I chose particularly, specifically, all acts that were London based. So and some of them had performed there before. So that was helpful. And it was all very well organised. So it actually it felt good. Yeah.
And you've got more London dates lined up as well, haven't you, after that one?
Yes, I've got one in September, 17th of September at 21 Soho, and then I've got two at 2 North Down in October and November. Terrific.
So let me ask you then about your earlier experiences, because you said that you did a stand-up course, and you did stand-up comedy to start with. Why comedy from the outset? Why did you get into comedy as a possible path?
That very sort of happenstance that you just make a choice. I saw it advertised at this comedy course, and I was at the point in my life I'd had to leave a job, and it was just I've always been interested in comedy and theatre, so and I think for me initially it was good to develop my confidence, I suppose, like it can be for a lot of people, that you standing up in front of people and speaking is one thing, but then trying to make them laugh is another. And so it was a challenge, but and it was good in terms of it was cathartic. It was, but it ultimately I felt my talents lay elsewhere. So.
Okay, but you knew still that even though you might not take the stand-up path, you knew that you wanted to be part of the comedy industry and become, so you took the promoting path?
Yes, I thought that for me, because it's just me doing it, and like I said, because I'm a single mum, my nights are monthly, and they're not more than, they can't be more than that. So it's it fits in, with my circumstances, and but still enables me to meet people, to develop my night, to make contacts. So
when you're putting a bill together, what do you have in mind? What are you looking for when you're deciding what acts to put on the bill? Do you have a format for how you choose a bill?
I think in the early days, it was more because I was completely new to the world of comedy, so and didn't know and the comedians that were out there, or I'd never asked before. So it was a case of people coming forward via social media, and also them recommending other comedians to me. So it was more of a kind of, if you're interested, I'll have you on. But with sometimes people sent clips initially, and I've learned that I always do that now, but sometimes people just came and performed. And I think with a comedy night, it's good to have just a huge variety, and to have people at different stages. So I think that basically it's a case of now, depending on what night it is as well. If it's for example, the night in London, I wanted comedians who were experienced, because this was my first night, and I wanted to go out with a bang type thing. So it just depends really on the night, and also I think particularly at the moment I'm trying to make new forays into different venues, so it's about being sure that the comedians are going to deliver, as it were, because you're confident in them. But it's still, my night's still a night where, new comedians to me perform, they, or people recommend, and so it's networking, it's providing opportunities. But it's, for me now, I think it is, I'm more careful about who performs, and that there is sort of a quality control there now.
Have you found anything unexpected going into this as a new path for you from 2018 to now? Have you found anything unexpected? So like something that went particularly a lot easier than you thought it would be, or unexpected obstacles?
I think because my night is like a pop-up night, so I don't have one venue that I'm attached to. So it can be there's so many variables really. So you think, like, I had one night at a venue where the venue had been involved in a festival, and I thought it was a good venue, but it turned out not to be very good for lots of different reasons. And then an altercation broke out on the night, and that was probably one of the worst gigs I've had. But other times I can be really surprised at, like recently I was at the Laughter Loft in Ayleston in Leicester, and it was just so well run. It was brilliant. I was so well looked after. Everything was straightforward, and it was it was very, just very reassuring, and very it sort of, because it went like clockwork, it sort of, everything that happened did happen, sort of thing. There were variables among the acts, and you always have to be flexible in terms of acts having to catch a train home, or I don't know, acts overrunning, or acts turning up late, or So you've got to be flexible. People cancelling on the night, on the day of your performance.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, for the London gig, no one cancelled. Nothing sort of went amiss, you know. So, but you just have to be prepared, I think, as much as you can, or just try and problem solve, basically.
Yeah, of course. So speaking of problem solving, obviously we've had comedy closed down completely for a time period of late. So how did that affect your mindset going into, well, I've just started this and I need to continue it? What did you think about that?
Well, I did go online for most of when we were in lockdown. So I had monthly gigs, and they were small gigs online, but we had regular attendees, and I managed to and it became like, for me, because nobody was going out, so it was like a really good way of having a good night, but online, you know. And and I managed to get comedians on my night who I couldn't afford then to have them on my live shows.
Right.
But so that was a plus in terms of being more affordable. But I think it was just a good night. You know, it was a good atmosphere. It brought people together from all over the lands, nationally and internationally. Yeah. So I think it just sort of ticked along, and in a good way. You know, it was a good thing to do, to keep going.
You mentioned there about people nationally and internationally. Do you feel that going online gave you, to some extent, an advantage of broadening awareness and the audience?
Yes, because for the first Leicester Comedy Festival under lockdown, I had a really good, a lot of interest, should I say. Yeah. And then also through that, I teamed up with a comedy night in California, and we've done a couple of shows together, and they were brilliant. Yeah. And again, more contacts there. Possibly some of them are going to come over to this country and perform at the next Leicester Comedy Festival. So it's been good, you know, in terms of just carry on making contacts at, like you say, broadening awareness. So, but so it was really positive.
Yeah. And you mentioned the Leicester Comedy Festival there. Obviously, Tickled Pink is essentially based in Leicester, but you're a big part of the festival because last year you were also nominated as Best Promoter. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. In 2021, yes. Yeah.
How did that make you feel to sort of say, well, we know who you are, we know what you're doing? A little bit of piece of recognition. What did that make you think?
Yes, I think it was again very positive because you know, I at that point I'd been going for 3 years, and in Leicester there are very established promoters, and I'm like I say, it's just me, and you've got to start small and grow, and so it was really good to get some recognition, basically.
Yeah,
and to acknowledge, you know, what I was doing. So
yeah, do you feel that helped you in any way coming into this year? Do you think that that's sort of saying, well, I've got something on my CV, people will now know who I am, people are recognizing what I can do, so, you know, get on board? Do you think that helped?
Yeah, yes, definitely. Yeah, I think when you're marketing yourself to other venues, I mean, on the back of that, and then also the London gig, I've got other gigs, you know, and in Leicester at the Y Theatre, which is a lot, you know, Leicester's oldest theatre, I believe. You know, I'm getting sort of larger capacity venues, so it's definitely helped. It sort of had that sort of it just put me on the map a bit, and I have some contact with Funny Women in London who've got a great sort of enterprise going there. So they I told that, I was just telling people, and it was just, and I think among venues and among comedians, they were supportive. They were really pleased for me.
Good. You mentioned Funny Women there. Now they hold competitions. Is that something that you think Tickled Pink will be looking into?
I think so, yes. I think Funny Women is based largely around London and perhaps the south, east, southwest. So I think it's definitely a possibility. There's lots of scope for development, and I think at the moment I'm largely planning shows, like I say, more in bigger venues, rather than, because I started out in bars and pubs. So now I'm actually going into venues that are made for comedy and theatre, as it were. Something more bespoke, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing at the moment. But there's definitely, I've been featured in a couple of magazine articles recently in Leicester. Been on BBC Radio Leicester again. So it's sort of going forward, it would definitely be something that I would want to look into.
Yeah. Have you learned any lessons? Have you made mistakes or anything that you sort of go, I know not to do this again, or I know that this is the right thing to do. This is a thing I need to do every time. What big learning have you taken so far?
Well, one big learning point is about paying the acts, in terms, I'd say I've always tried to do that, but not been able to do it very much or at all initially. So I think that is a big factor, in terms of if I'm getting acts that require significant payment, or I negotiate with their agents about the fact that I'm a small promoter, so I can't afford £500 for one act. I've had good response to that, So these comedians want to perform on my night and are willing to do so for £100. So I think it's about not being afraid to say, rather than sort of accepting a particular piece of, I don't know, information or whatever. I can challenge that. I can negotiate. But I think it's about communication really as well. It's about, in terms of liaising with the acts, exactly giving them the information they need, which sounds like common sense, but having a dialogue in a Facebook group about the event that's coming up. But I think also being persistent, because I feel that a lot of what's happened to me, like Next Up Comedy filmed my show at the Laughter Loft, and that was through a lot of email communication about, I tried to see if they would film any of my shows during the Leicester Comedy Festival this year, but they couldn't, but I should get in touch. But these are busy people, so you have to keep sort of saying, don't forget about me, can we talk about this, so it's kind of and also I think, as well as sort of being in the freelance world, is that payment from your night, if you haven't got control over it in terms of perhaps where the ticket money comes from, you're beholden to a night, to a company to pay you. And then I've got comedians saying, when are we going to be paid? So it's that's not easy. And it's about, again, having open communication with the venue, and so it's just learning really a lot about dealing with different venues, different comedians, being realistic. Like I'm trying to negotiate a night where I go down the southwest, around Bristol area, and they're very keen to have me, but there's a lot of negotiation that needs to happen for me to go there, you know, in terms of they're going to pay my travel costs there, they're going to put me up at night. I need local comedians. London comedians are going to cost them too much to come, you know, and again, because it'll be my first time there, it's a bit it's really sort of fine-tuning the detail, do you know what I mean? Not assuming anything. Or being able to say no as well, you know. Sometimes when people, because they've asked me, can you do this venue, that venue, the other venue? Well, I haven't got enough capacity to do that at the moment, you know. So let's just start off with this one venue, and so it's kind of like the will, for me the will is there, but then it's actually like, well, actually, can I actually, you know, carry this through? And it's sort of starting small. And in Weston-super-Mare they've got Pride 2023, and they're going to have a big festival there, and do I want to be part of it, you know? So these are all good ideas, but it's just about how they actually work out in practical terms.
So I wanted to ask, when you're putting on an all-female lineup, does that have challenges in itself that you might not have in a mixed bill? Does it have inherent challenges that that I wouldn't be aware of?
No, I would say just in dealing with people, you can have challenges in terms of their demands, their needs, their, you know, meeting those. But no, I haven't found anything specific. Specific challenges, no.
Right. So there's no excuse there, basically.
No, and there are many, you know, comedians out there, who want to come on my night, and I've found supply is not a problem. So far, is there a defining moment where you sort of when you've been working on putting your bills together or performing or presenting your shows that that's sort of become like cathartic, that sort of says, yes, this is definitely this moment right now, this is what it's all about, this is why I'm doing this? Have you had a moment like that? Yeah, well, definitely it was the 21 Soho gig, I think, particularly post lockdown. It just, like, I stayed with my old school friend in London, and just the trip there, we were getting the Tickled banner out and taking pictures outside of the Blackfriar pub, and then it was St Paul's, and then it was outside the theatre. You know, it was really good fun. And just, again, because there were comedians there who I'd known for some time, so they were just so pleased that it had gone well. And it was just, it really was that sort of perfect sort of coming together of the acts were there, we're all there when we should be. Everybody, it just worked like clockwork, you know. And the acts loved it. They got really good response from the audience, as I've said previously. The venue were brilliant. So it was just a combination of sort of coming out of Leicester, trying London, and it going really well. So
now that you're part of the industry, if you will, do you still go out and watch live comedy? Is that still an entertainment for you, or is it like a part of a work life now?
Oh, no, I love going to see live comedy. I'm going to see Alison Spittle in Leicester, because at the Big Difference venue in Leicester, they've got a lot of work in progress shows, and I'll probably go and see Katie Pritchard as well. No, I love going to see live comedy, and I watch it as well on the telly. So I definitely, it's a pleasure, you know, for me. I mean, when I was younger, I was lucky enough to go and see Victoria Wood at the De Montfort Hall, and you know, it was just, and then throughout the earlier days of Tickle Pink, I made a point of, it would have been 2019, going to see particular comedians that I wanted to see. So Yeah, so no, I think it's definitely something that I enjoy as well. I mean, at my nights, I enjoy just sitting back and watching the comedians. It's great entertainment.
Yeah. Do you still get on board? Do you MC? Do you do your turn on the stage with the comedians, or are you determined that you are just promoter?
Well, I think through necessity initially, I was the MC, and also realizing that that is a very skilled job. So now I tend to get someone to MC, but if needs be, I will do it, or I might introduce the night.
Yeah.
But I generally have found that I've done so much to get us to that point. It's nice for somebody else to do their thing.
Would you recommend comedy promotion as a path for other people to take part in?
I would, because I have got a lot of pleasure out of it. It's hard work, but you get to meet some great people, and I've got a lot out of it. So I think if you enjoy comedy, if you like getting out and about, you like meeting new people, you like liaising with different venues, just expanding your horizons, basically. I think it's really good for that.
If I could ask a couple of sort of more on a more serious level, do you think, because it's a female night specifically, do you feel like, how would you summarize the female experience as being part of the comedy scene, as far as you are familiar with it?
For performers, do you mean? Or
yes, yeah, and for yourself?
Well, I would say, like from what I've read sort of online recently and heard from other comedians, that it's not easy to get on a bill, a lineup, as a woman. But I think it's being taken seriously as well. That for me, I think, and I think perhaps this isn't just. I think just trying to break into an industry, and dealing with people that have been there for a long time, that is not easy. Because you're sort of just knocking on the door, and people. I think with lots of industries, you've got clickiness, you've got cliques, you've got sort of the boys' club. You've got. It's not easy to work within that, and I think so I do sort of find myself on the outside, because I'm small, and I not me personally small, but a small promoter. I think it's recognizing that, but it's also not allowing that to stop me doing things. I've had plenty of doubts where I think, oh, this is perhaps not for me, I'm not having very much success. But actually, who defines what success is, in terms of and I think that I just, I'm keeping going and trying to move forward. And where I found difficulties of perhaps not being accepted, or not sort of being allowed to fully participate in the local scene, then I've just tried to look elsewhere, I suppose.
And you mentioned that who defines what success is. How do you define success for yourself?
I think for me, it's about putting on a good night. I'm sort of on a bit of a roll at the moment, because after 21 Soho had the night in Ayleston, in Leicester, which went really well as well. So I think that it's kind of like, it's just when things come together, but sometimes it can be getting good feedback from people, at the end of a night, or it can be, I've got some more venues booked later this year. That's good. So for me as an events promoter, that's what success is.
Would you say that perceptions or attitudes towards women in comedy have changed since you started in 2018, or is it have the ranks closed? How do you feel attitudes are changing, if at all?
I think the lineups are more diverse, although I have seen people say that perhaps since comedy's opened up again, it's not become as diverse, or it's flipped back. I think it just depends, where you are in the country. And, like I said, in London, people are very accepting there, but I've not always had that, so, or, I do think there's this thing, like someone, a promoter said to me not that long ago that he felt that I was alienating half of the population. So basically, what are you doing? And it's kind of like, well, we've all got to find our sort of niche, haven't we? We've all got to find, not that being, a woman is a niche, but we've all got to find what we enjoy. And I think it's just, for me, it's just showing that with a diverse lineup, you can have a great night. You can laugh and have fun, and and it's just been as good, and it just, not always, but perhaps more progressive comedy, more interesting, more just different perspectives, not the same sort of misogynistic comedy, but just more varied, just more interesting, more. That's what I like about it.
So what are you seeing now that is more interesting? What's more exciting? What's coming? What's ahead? What can we look forward to?
Well, I'm working with a comedian called Sonia Keita Doubleday, or Chicky Keita by her name. And she's put a show together, which she's bringing to Leicester, which is character-led, lots of costume changes, surreal, just very, very clever, very entertaining. Then I've got Samantha Day. She is taking her show to Edinburgh called Careering, and that's about her time at 30 years as an accountant and an alcoholic. And there's Hannah Sylvester. She is from Birmingham, and she's performed on my night a lot. She is very talented, but sort of operating under the, she's not been on telly or anything, but she's definitely, she's very talented. She's she performs songs. She's just, just very, very at ease, commands the stage, So I think these people are a joy to watch, but they're not sort of well known, nationally, but they are very good, and they are touring, and they're trying to build up their performance time and just hone their art, really. So
where can we find out then about your forthcoming shows? Where can we get in touch with you?
Well, there's various places. I do have a website which tells you a little bit about my comedy night, and that's ticklepinkcomedy.co.uk. But mainly I have a Facebook group called Tickle Pink Comedy Night, and I'm on Instagram, Tickle Pink Comedy Night. And so it's all the details are on there.
Well, terrific. Well, I mean, you've been fantastic guests. You've answered all my questions and more. Is there anything that you want to talk about that I haven't raised, I haven't mentioned? Is there anything you want to put out there?
Well, I think you've covered everything, Mark. I think you've been a great interviewer, and you've asked me a lot of really good questions. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Then it only remains for me to ask you, Judith Critchley, can you please sum up comedy in a nutshell?
Just having a good belly laugh is what I'd say.
I like that. Well, thank you for being a guest on the show. I've really enjoyed our time together, and thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you. See you soon.